welcome to our second day of the webinar series. Yesterday we had Craig Gill talking from Birmingham City. Today we got an English Liverpool legend, England legend, Jimmy Melia, who now lives and resides in Dallas. I'm sure most of you know who he is and have heard of him. So Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing terrifically well, yes. Just avoiding everything, staying at home, having a nice walk. Yeah, Angie's keeping me busy.
Good, that's the way it should be. So,
Yeah.
So Jimmy and everybody that's listening, you're welcome to write some questions and send them to us. We can answer them throughout the webinar today. Today's theme on the webinar is going to be really, we're going to walk through and reminisce over Jimmy's career until he got to the States and is coaching here now. So feel free on your control panel, you can send some questions, and as we go through, we can answer some of those questions as we go. So Jimmy, you ready to get started?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to start right from the beginning. So give us a little bit of a background about where you were born, into the many numbers of siblings that you've got, and what the area where you grew up was like.
It was terrific. I was football crazy where I was, which was Scotty Road, which is less than 10 minutes, 15 minutes walk to Anfield and Goodison Park. I started off playing with Liverpool's schoolboys. When I was 14, I was picked for England schoolboys. 15, played for England schoolboys. And them days I was captain at Liverpool schools, and I had Everton. I was an Everton supporter at that stage. And
are you? So you were a truly Everton supporter, or did you switch allegiance to Liverpool once you became a Liverpool schoolboy?
No, I was still an Everton supporter when I was 15, and I had Everton were down at the house every day, and I was all set to go to Everton. And Bobby Campbell, who lived in the same street, who finished up being the Chelsea manager, wanted me to go to Liverpool. So because it was so easy to go to Liverpool and then be in the same street, we went there together. So I finished up going to Liverpool, but it was so funny. Well, now it's funny that the Everton coach came down to the house, and I hid myself upstairs in the bedroom because I didn't want to speak to him. And he was shouting upstairs, "Jimmy, where are you?" And I was hiding under the bed somewhere. But anyway, it worked out good. At Liverpool, then we had John Morrissey, who finished up going to.
So Jimmy, let's go back a little bit. Just how many siblings you have, and where you grew up. Just a little bit of a background of where you grew up in the area and what type of area it was. Scotty Road, talk to us about.
It was Penryn Street, where I lived, and my mother had been there for over 20 years with my brothers and sisters. There was 11 in the family.
11.
It used to be the best. 11 of us in the family, and I was the first up in the morning, was the best dressed. My father was a local bookie. Them days it wasn't legal, so he used to be out. He had a pitch where people used to come, give them the slip, and he would take all the information, and then he would go downtown and have a drink with all his friends, and all the people would come to him in the pub and give them the slip. So he would take all the information about all the racing that was going on, So we weren't too bad off. We always had enough money them days for food. And then by time I was 13, unfortunately, my dad died very young when I was just 13. Left my mother with 6 children, still at school, but we survived, and it was good for me to leave school at 15 and go on the ground staff at Liverpool. Then I think we used to get £2 a week or something, so that went towards everything in the family to help us keep it going, But
so you're like number 5 in the family, right? You were the 5th.
I was halfway, so I was number 5.
Half-ish, right?
6 sisters and 5 brothers. None of them played the game, but they were a mixture of Everton supporters and Liverpool supporters, you know.
Okay.
And then by time I was 17, on my 17th birthday, which is November the 1st, I signed professional with Liverpool. Them days, it was Don Welsh who was the manager, and he signed me on that day. I remember he gave me the pen for signing.
You know, the times have changed there, Jimmy. You don't go to a ground staff and then become a professional football player, soccer player, do you? Which is what
not today. It's completely different. But them days, we used to do all the odd jobs around the ground, clean the bath, put the showers on and organise for the professional players, clean the uniforms, and we used to wash everything. Bob Paisley had just finished playing them days, and he was in charge of basically the ground staff and all the reserve team players. And we used to wash the socks by hand for all the players, clean the cleats, the boots them days in the boot room, which got very famous because they didn't have anywhere else to do anything. We used to have the one room, the dressing rooms. You know?
So do you have any stories on somebody's boots or special requirements on boots back then, or they just didn't care? Or who was the money?
we had a player called Billy Little who was very famous. It was among the best 5 players Liverpool have ever had for me, you know, and he was the captain, took all the free kicks, all the corners, all the penalties, and just he was the man at Liverpool. I used to call it Little Pool. That's how good he was them days. Strong, terrifically fast, 2 great feet. And it was so funny, when I got in the team with him, I was just 17, playing my first game at Anfield in front of the Kop. And he was the one that crossed the ball for me to score my first goal in the professional league and the first goal for Liverpool. Out of all the goals I scored 78 goals for Liverpool. That was the only one I really remember. And it was so funny. We played a game at Swansea and Billy wasn't playing. So the manager said, who's going to take the penalties? Well, me being the shy person I was, I put my hand up and he said, okay, you take it, Jimmy. So we're playing Swansea. 20 minutes in the game, we get a penalty. Put the ball down, take it, back of the net, scored. First shot, great goal. Then the following Wednesday, we're playing Bristol Rovers. And Billy Little is back in the team. Captain, walking out. As we're walking out, Phil Taylor, who was the manager them days, said, Jimmy, it was a penalty, you take it. So we get out at Anfield, on the field, 20 minutes into the game, we get a penalty. So I picked the ball up, the crowd booed me. I put it down on the spot, they still booed me. Then I put it in the back of the net and they still booed me because Billy wasn't taking the penalty. So I don't know what they would have done if I'd have missed.
Oh my gosh, lynch mob.
Yeah.
Tough crowd right up there.
That's how popular this guy was, you know, Billy Little, but great player and played 20 years for the club and played over 600 league games. And I think he was the leading goal scorer for a long time till Ian Rush came in. Anyway, I finished up playing regular in the first team and I finished up scoring 78 goals. And after 12 years at the club, I decided I think I needed a change. When Shankly came.
So while you're at Liverpool, you were in Division 2 for majority of the time, right? And then you got the promotion with Bill. Was it Bill Shankly that?
With Bill Shankly, we got promotion, won the second division, and then within 4 years we'd won the first division as it was them days. And then I decided to have a transfer, and they sold me to Wolverhampton for £50,000, which was a record transfer fee at the time.
Well, let's stay with Liverpool for just a second before we go off to Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think it was 55,000, Jimmy, but we ain't going to split hairs on 5,000.
Okay.
When So let's talk about Bill Shankly, because for the people in America, he's obviously at home. He's pretty much an icon of the game for anybody. Doesn't matter if you're a Liverpool supporter or not. He's an icon. But talk to us a little bit about you and Bill Shankly, or some stories about Bill Shankly and how he coached and managed. Did he have hands on? Was he hands off? Did he have a bunch of people around him? Just talk a little bit about Bill Shankly for us, so we get an idea of what he's like.
Bill Shankly arrived at Anfield on 1959, and his first game was against Cardiff City. And when he arrived, we were doing a lot of running. Everything was run, run, run. He arrived at Anfield at the training ground with a bag of balls on his shoulders. So I looked up, that was great. We're going to start practicing now with a ball. So he was fabulous. So we're playing Cardiff in the first game at Anfield, his first game. And we've been working on throw-ins, free kicks, everything to do with the game. And by the time we played this game, we were more concerned about the throw-ins, the free kicks, and we lost his first game 4-1 at Anfield. Then from that year on, we started to get better, and we finished up signing Ronnie Yates, Ian St. John, and we had a good number of local players, which was John Morrissey, Roger Hunt, Ronnie Moran, who finished up at the club as the coach.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the following season, we walked to the second division. We won by about 15 points. And then within 4 years, we'd won the Division 1. So that's how good he was. But he was a legend. This guy was crazy on the game. There's nothing else. If you talked about cricket or anything else, he would walk away. It was game crazy. There was talk of him signing Alan Ball, and he'd love to play a five-a-side. So it was all over the papers about Liverpool signing Alan Ball. So Shankly, all the reporters got to Melwood to see if this was going to happen. Shankly was in the dressing room in his office, and he seen all the reporters outside. So he shouted, Bob Paisley, Ronnie, got all the staff. He said, we'll have a game because these reporters look so bad outside. We'll have a scrimmage against them. So he organized a game. That's how crazy he was. Then he used to always play a five-a-side against the academy, the boys that are on the academy. So they're playing this game, and I got to 12 o'clock because normally we would work for 2 hours, 10 to 12. So I went up to said, boss, it's time. So he said, okay, said to the kids, he said, winning goal. So Chris Lawler, who was behind the goal, watching the game, them days we didn't have any goals. So the kids scored a goal. The apprentices scored, and the Shankly said, no goal, because he hated losing. No goal, So he said, okay, he said, Chris Lawler's behind the goal. He said, Chris, was that a goal? Well, Chris put his head down, he's very quiet, and he said, that was a goal, boss. Shankly said to him, Chris, he said, it's the first time you talk and you tell lies.
That's funny.
So Shankly used to go and watch games all the time. So it was his wife's anniversary. They were so many years married. So people said, Mr. Shankly, did you take your wife to watch Accrington Stanley Reserves? He said, no, son. He said, it was the first team. It was an anniversary. That's how crazy he was. He'd take his wife anywhere. This guy was just crazy on the game,
Well, good.
When he said, a reporter once said to him, Mr. Shankly, winning is more important than life and death. He said, it's more important than that.
That's one of the famous quotes. I've used that a couple of times.
Yeah.
So while you're with Bill Shankly, you got called up for England, though, right?
Yes, I was lucky. I got picked for England against Scotland at Wembley, and then I was probably the best player at my position in the country at that stage, because if you were picked for England, it's only 11 players on the field, so you had to be the best 11 in the country. It wasn't like 5 reserves, 6 reserves like they have today, you know.
So you played. So it was England, Scotland, and England, Switzerland, right?
Played against
You scored in the Switzerland game, but let's go back to the
yeah,
England Scotland game. So what did it? Because that was at Wembley, right? Is that
it was at Wembley, yeah.
so? Tell us, for anybody that aspires to be a professional player, aspires to represent their country, what does it feel like, to wear the England shirt, your country shirt, and to walk out in front of all those? And back then, Wembley held a lot more than they do now, right? What was it, 100,000?
There was 100,000 people at the game at
100,000.
Wembley.
So walking out with 100,000 people with an England shirt on, representing your country against some of my Scottish friends are going to hate this, but against the old enemy, I guess, against Scotland. Of course, Scotland won that game, but and also playing for Sir Alf Ramsey. Alf Ramsey was your coach, wasn't he?
Alfred was the coach, and he picked me for his second game, I think it was.
That's crazy. So talk us about that. Just, can you remember? Oh, I'm sure you do. Just what it felt like, what you felt like walking out onto the field, 100,000 people, your first ever time to wear an England shirt representing your country, and what it felt like just to play. And did you have any nerves? Did you have any, how was it different from playing for Liverpool to England?
It was completely different because we had some great players, Jimmy Greaves, Bobby Charlton, Jackie Charlton, Bobby Smith, and Brian Douglas, terrific players. But also Scotland had some great players: Jimmy Baxter, Dave Mackay, Ian St. John. They were great players. And after 5 minutes, there was an injury, and 2 players. We finished up playing with 10 men, both teams. Caldo and Bobby Smith had a clash, and both of them went off the field injured. So we played the game with 10 players, and unfortunate, Jimmy Armfield from Blackpool gave a penalty away, and they finished up winning the game 2-1. But then, Alf Ramsey liked me, and I was really playing great stuff. I was picked against Brazil, but unfortunate, the week before I had an injury at Fulham, and I was captain at Liverpool at that stage, and I couldn't play. I lost confidence, and it was really when it was a player from Fulham that went right over the top, and I was out and lost the confidence for probably a year. It took me time to get back to where I was,
So playing for Alf Ramsey, did you have a couple of training sessions prior to coming in?
We played, yeah, we had in London, we had some training sessions there, and Alf was terrific guy, knew the game, very motivated. We had another coach that used to help him, Wilf McGuinness, who was at Manchester United, done a lot of work with us, and Alf was there making sure everything went good, But Alf knew the game, and as you know, he won the championship, he won the league with a team called Ipswich, which was a fabulous achievement,
Absolutely. So anything else about Sir Alf Ramsey you would like to share with us, or should we move on?
I really liked him, and he seemed to like me, and I met him many a time when I finished up being a manager at Brighton. He was lived at Ipswich, and he came to the games at Norwich and always came up to me and shook hands and always said hi and wished us good luck,
Well, good. So talk us through the goal you scored against Switzerland.
We won. It was unbelievable. Alf Ramsey said before the game, we had 4 games. We started off playing in Czechoslovakia and beat Czechoslovakia 4-2. But we also played behind the Iron Curtain and beat Germany in Germany 1-0. And then the last game, he said, everyone will play. So we had, I think, 18, 20 players. So for that game, I didn't play. I was just one of the reserves at that stage. I played, and we made 8 changes. And when you think that England could go to Switzerland and beat them 8-0 with 8 different players, that's how strong England was at that stage, you know. But the game's all changed, and you know, everyone now, you go to Switzerland and you get a draw, you're quite happy. But this was 8. I chipped the ball. I seen the goalkeeper off his line, so I chipped the ball over the top, and it was one of special goal, you know.
I bet. Remember that
amazing, yeah. The amazing thing, people ask me, what do you really like about the way your career's gone? I mean, when you look, I've been 60 years in the game. I look back and think the first game I walked out at Anfield was something special, and scoring a goal in front of the Kop, I'll never forget that the rest of my life. And then playing for England at Wembley, them days to be picked for your country, it was a big thing because Johnny Haynes was the captain of England, and he always played in my position, so it was always hard to get into the England team. And then take a team to the cup final in '83, which was Brighton.
We'll go into that in a second. Yeah, we'll go into that in a second. But going back to those England-Scotland, I mean, those 2 boys there, Ian St John and Greavesy, became best buddies. They even had a show that I remember watching, the Greavesy St John show. I remember it, watching it growing up, Saturday mornings and stuff. So even those 2 became good friends. And unfortunately, Greavesy right now not doing so well back home, but hopefully he'll get better soon. So
yeah, I hope so. Great little character, great love for the game, great finisher, fast, but finishing, side foot, you know, he was probably one of the best finishers, and great character.
For another conversation about him and the 96-6 World Cup team. So I mean, he was one of the best strikers around at that time and didn't get to play much. So
yeah, terrific.
Yeah, so let's move on. So £55,000, which I have no idea what that would equate to in this money, in this day and age. What year was that, Jimmy? Was that 65?
This was 65. Yeah.
Okay, so 65, 55 grand Wolverhampton paid for you, and you had to go to Birmingham.
Yeah.
So how was that?
I know, well, Wolverhampton was the worst move I ever made was to go there, because the place itself was like, it was a terrible place to live. I lived there for, I think, 6 or 7 months. It was so good. Stan Cullis always liked me. Against Wolverhampton, I always played well. And I think he realised that I could turn, because at them days, Wolverhampton were one of the top clubs in the country. And they'd just gone down and started to lose a little bit. So he needed some people that could bring the club up to where he wanted them. So I went there, and within 1 year, they fired Stan Cullis, who'd signed me. So I criticised the chairman. So he right away wanted to get rid of me. And so I was only there 9 months. And,
oh, wow. A lot of money for 9 months.
Yeah. And
was that, Southampton?
He made me captain. He wanted me to stay there as a coach, Stan Cullis. So he made me captain for the tournament, because Ron Flowers, who was the captain, was with the England team. So he made me captain. And when we came back, he really wanted me to promote and help all the other players at the club. So I was really upset when he left. So Southampton came in, who were in the 2nd division at that stage. So they came in, and so I moved there down south.
Well, Wolverhampton lost some money there, because it was what, 30,000, I think, for.
And they lost a lot of money. I got transferred for 32,000. So I don't know how they lost, but the chairman was glad to get rid of me.
So talk our way through Southampton for a little bit.
Southampton had a lot of tremendous players. Great team going forward, but didn't have a clue how to defend. So Ted Bates, who'd been at the club forever, sort of made me captain with the team. And leader, and within 2 years, I got them into the first division. And it was always a battle to stay in the first division, but we managed to do it. I was there for 5 years at Southampton, and the game I'll always remember at Southampton was when we played Wolverhampton at Southampton. On the clock, there was a clock there at Southampton around the side of the stand that you could always see the time. At 20 past 4, the game went to 22-4. We were winning 7-1 against Wolverhampton. And I didn't score any goals. I made them, you know.
That's fine.
And we finished up beating them 8-3.
Wow, pay some good money to watch that now. Out of interest, back then, how much would it cost for somebody to come watch you? Back then, for a ticket to come watch you?
Wasn't much, but the game I remember as well was against Plymouth, up in your area. Yeah. I scored the winning goal that put us basically in the first division. That goal took us in the first division.
Wow. Yeah, I worked a little bit at Plymouth before I came to the States. Know that club pretty well. All right. So after Southampton, then you did a bit of player coaching, didn't you?
I went to Aldershot as player, manager, coach, and I was there for 4 years. And then we had a few problems, and you know, it didn't last. So I moved on to Crewe, which is going back north.
Alexandra.
Manchester, yeah. So I went there for another 4 years. And from Crewe, I went to Southport, which that's where I was living. And I was traveling through to Crewe all the time.
Now, Southport, were they professional then, or were they still semi-pro?
Yeah, they were still professional. They were in the 4th division.
And you were.
But when I was at Crewe, they used to call me. The supporters used to call me and ask me, "What time is the game?" And I used to say to them, "What time can you get here?"
Funny. So from Southport, now when you were at Southport, how long was you with Southport? Because didn't you just go
I was only there. I was only there, I think, a year, and then I moved to Dubai to coach out there. I was the first one ever to go out to Dubai and coach out there. Don Revy come as national coach.
Who's that with?
Dubai. That was with Al Shab, Nadi Shab.
Right. So they're
there for about 4 years. I used to go and eat with the president of Sharjah, which is the ruler of Sharjah, called Sheikh Faisal bin Khalid Al Qasimi. He was the ruler, and he used to take me. I was to be eating it with our hands. You know, we never used to have any knife and fork.
Now, was that a youth setup, or was that a professional?
It was sort of. They weren't professional. They were sort of building up as a sort of professional club, you know.
Right.
And I stayed there for 4 years.
So for those that are listening here, I think Al Sharab, where you went to, is probably the 4th largest city in United Arab Emirates. Would you say that?
In the United, yes. Sharjah is like Dubai. Sharjah's running like from here to Plano, you know.
Oh, okay. So for those again that are listening in England, whatever, Plano from Dallas is about about 10, 15 minutes, right? For you,
yes.
Maybe 20 minutes. Okay, so people get a better idea of what that is. Okay, well, so we're going to come up to the highlight of your coaching career in a minute. So from Dubai, from United Arab Emirates, you then got you got to go. Did you go to Portugal, or did you go to England?
No, I went back to England, and I got a chance to go to America, to go to California.
Okay, so that's the California South Lasers.
Yeah, the California Lasers.
You're an assistant there, right?
Yeah, with Laurie Calloway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got the players for them and helped them out there, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I always wanted to go to America, and this was an opportunity to go there. But the team done quite well considering, but the ownership couldn't afford to keep it going, and he folded. So I went back to England, and I used to live in Southport. So then I got a call from Alan Mullery, who was at Brighton, to do some scouting for him. So I done the scouting for him. Then he wanted me to come full time as chief scout. So I went down to Brighton to live and to do the coaching and help round anything that needed doing within the club. Then Alan got left and went to Charlton. Then Mike Bailey came in, and within 2 years he left. So I took over as the manager coach there, and within a year I took them to the cup final. And the amazing thing is, we played like against Newcastle at the Goldstone, and we tied the first game 1-1. Second game we had to go to Newcastle to play, and we were so lucky we won the game 1-0. Then the next game was against Manchester City at the Goldstone, and we beat them 4-0. John Bond was the manager then. Then the draw came out on the Monday, and we were playing Liverpool at Anfield. So, I mean, I think we were 6-1 on to win the game.
Wow. And you did win it.
We did win, and the great thing about it, it was the only game on a Sunday. No other games at England. We played the game and won the game 2-1. And then Jimmy Tarbuck, who was the big comedian, he was a Liverpool supporter and a good friend of mine.
3-2-1 Dusty.
Was on the television on Majesty's, and he said, that Jimmy Melia, he said, I hope the rest of his hair falls out. He said, after beating my team, Liverpool.
So that was a big highlight of your career then as a manager, to beat Liverpool with Brighton and Hove Albion. And then in the final, what stage was that? Was that the semis or the quarters?
That's the quarterfinals. Then we had Norwich in the quarterfinal at Goldstone. We beat them 1-0. Jimmy Kay scored. Then we had to go to Highbury to play Sheffield Wednesday, which Jackie Charlton was the manager, and we beat them at Highbury 2-0. So we went to the final against Manchester United.
Yes, so that was at Wembley. Yeah. And so talk us through it. I won't tell the results for those people that don't know, but you can talk through the first game.
Okay, we're playing, and we get the goal. We score a goal. We're winning 1-0. Just before half time, Ray Wilkins, who hadn't scored a goal, I think, for 18 months, chipped the ball over the goalkeeper's head and made it 1-1. And then we're in 20 minutes of the second half. United went in front 2-1. And then we're in 15 minutes them scoring. We come back. I called Gary Stevens to go up for a corner then, and he scored from the corner, which made it 2-2. Then we're in the last kick of overtime. Michael Robinson breaks through and passes the ball to Gordon Smith to side foot the ball in the back of the net. The goalkeeper makes this save, puts his hands out, puts his legs out, and Gordon Smith hits his leg, goes out for the corner. We didn't even have the corner. The referee blew for full time. And everybody, wherever Gordon Smith goes, you're Gordon Smith, you missed that goal in the cup final.
Oh no.
And funny enough, the managers didn't get a medal till about 5 years later. The referees got one, all the players got one, but the managers didn't get one. The FA called me and said, we're going to give you all the manager. So that was all the managers that had been to the final in 30 years.
All got a medal.
You got a medal.
You still have it?
I've still got it. I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
I get a call from the FA to go down to the Football Association. All the managers were there, and we met, and everyone got presented with a medal. So just before I went down, I get this call from Gordon Smith. So I said, Gordon, I'm just going down to get the medal for getting to the final. He said, yeah. He said, it should have been a winner's.
Yeah. And for those that we'll go, you went on then to the replay, and it's the replay that.
It wasn't very good, the replay.
So just give a sense. So this was 1983. So of course, this is
83.
Yeah, I was getting into football at that time.
Yeah.
So go through the players that were on that Man United team, and then let's go through your players.
Robinson, Brian Robinson was the main player on their team, and Ray Wilkinson was a great player for them. And they had a lot of good players, but I don't remember them all. I know most of my players at Brighton.
Some of those players in Man United ended up playing in the '86 Mexico World Cup, which is one of the first World Cups I remember on TV. Yeah. And even some of your players ended up playing for England that '86 World Cup as well.
Well, Steve Foster was, Gary Stevens.
Gary Stevens was,
yeah. Neil Smiley, a lot of them players really, with Michael Robinson and Gordon Smith. Neil Smiley was on the right side,
And how did you feel when walking out again? Same thing, right? It's the England, but this time instead of an England player, you're walking out into Wembley in arguably the world's most well-known traditional cup there is. How did you feel walking out?
It was great feeling. I mean, I didn't tell you, we went by helicopter to the game.
Oh, you
because we were sponsored by the airline, and they decided we'd go by helicopter to the game. So we're flying over Wembley. We landed in a school playground there, and we only had a bus waiting to pick us up, take us to Wembley. Ron Atkinson, who was the manager of United at that stage, said, I hope that flight is going to be okay. They don't have too much thunder and lightning going on around. Trying to frighten us a little bit,
Well, good. So Ron Atkinson, another famous name right there in English management as well. So man, that's quite a highlight right there, both in playing and in coaching. So
three things I would say: that playing at Liverpool, my first game, scoring a goal in front of the Kop, playing for England at Wembley, particularly against Scotland, which was always a big game at that stage, and taking the team to Wembley. Them three things stick out and probably, my mind more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, people dream of that stuff, Jimmy. So you've lived your dream for sure. So now I'll just remind people that are watching this, you're welcome to ask some questions. There is an area on there for you to ask some questions. I know Dave Simeone's on board now listening. So if anybody wants to ask some questions, fire away. So from right now, we're still in the 80s. I'm actually going to go back a little bit because you only skimmed over the American side just a little bit. So the North American Soccer League, I think it was called back then. You were there, what, 77, 78 or 78, 79, one of the two.
78, 79.
Cleveland was your last. Yeah, Cleveland you was the head coach for, head manager.
I went to Cleveland as head coach the following year.
What do you feel that league was like then? I mean, what was the type of players that were coming over to? Obviously, it's very different now with Major League Soccer, and I think they've got a foothold at last here in the States. It's been going 25 years or so. So what was it like then in the NASL? What type of players were being pulled over, and what was the crowd like?
You had mostly the players in the top, like playing with the Cosmos, with Beckenbauer. New York. They had the players that were just on the verge of maybe finishing, but still had enough ability at that stage to really do well. Beckenbauer came and you were terrific players. All the players. I mean, Alan Ball came over. Bobby Moore came over. They all came over and done a good job. I thought the English players done a terrific job to get the league going at that stage, you know. And like the league that I was in, like, was a secondary league, so we had like reserve team players that would come in and wanted to play and didn't get in the first team, say, in England at that stage.
So I'm guessing because you spent 1 year in South California and then 1 year at Cleveland, the money was the issue to try and keep it going, I guess. Is that the reason?
Yeah, them days, like the owners, normally they wanted people there to help them out with the finance, but it wasn't big enough at that stage. Phil Woosen, who got the league going, you know, they thought it was going to be something really special, but they didn't realize that is the fourth sport in America, you know, and it's difficult. People didn't realize it was going to take this much time to get it really going as the way it is today, you know. And today you don't get the star players that are coming in like we did in the early 70s and 60s, you know.
So you've seen, obviously for you, you've seen that 70s, a bit like Bobby Moffat and a couple of other boys that came over and stayed here. They've seen the change for sure in the.
Big change. I mean, now they're trying to get normally the local players, American players, to play in the leagues as much as they can, which is great for the country, you know.
It's great for the sport. It's great for the sport.
Yeah.
So we're going to fast forward a little bit. So so actually, I think that FA Cup was your last year with Brian, wasn't it?
Yes. From then, I went to Portugal to a team called Belenenses, and I won the league over there. I walked on water for 2 years, by going from there, and Belenenses, I went and won the league, Division 2, and then finished 5th in Division 1 against Benfica, Sporting Lisbon, Braga, you know. So it was a great time, you know. And,
did you enjoy in Portugal? Did you enjoy your time?
I love Portugal. I learned a lot in Portugal. I mean, them days, they used to defend on the 18-yard box. It was that tight, you know, because it was still in 2 points for a win, 1 for a tie. So, you know, it was important. Very tight, like England, they defended on the halfway line, you know. But Portugal, they defended on the 18-yard line. The defenders used to stay put, never used to move out very far, you know. And you'd finish up winning your games on free kicks, you know, because this is what they practice all the time. You know, there's a lot of fouls given because, particularly around that 18-yard box, you know.
Right. So
did you great? Un poco. Sway.
That's funny. So what?
No, they learned the language. They learned how to speak Liverpool.
Very funny. So how long was you in Portugal for?
3.5 years.
So 3.5 good years. Good weather, right?
Oh yeah, it was great weather in Portugal, and it was so funny. We played the first game, and we were terrible. And you know, the crowd clapped me as I walked out on the field. And like, it was so bad, second half, I walked out, and they stood up again and clapped me as I walked out in the field. So I said, I've got to stay here as long as I can after clapping me for this performance. It was so bad, you know.
That's funny. So do you have any notable players in Portugal playing for you?
One or two of them finished up playing with the national team, and I brought Ronnie Glavin out, who was a Scotsman. Ronnie Glavin, who played for Celtic. I brought him out to play, done a good job for us. He stayed there for 2 years. You know, he scored, I think, double figures. A lot of good players there, technically very good, but things were very tight. You know, they would, like, you could be there 6 months and you'd be gone, you know. It was one of them situations. They changed. I needed 2 months to go in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest serving coach at that club, Belenenses.
And you So you needed 2 more months. Is
I
that what
didn't
you're
make it. I didn't make it.
saying? Oh man. So from there, so we're talking what, 80? What are we talking now? 80,
86, 87.
86,
Yeah.
87. So what do we do after that?
I finished up. Roger Verdi, who worked in America, asked me to come out to Dallas and go to a camp which we went to in California, San Diego, Volga Singer Camp. We went to that camp, and while I was at that camp, there were some people from Australia that were born in Liverpool asked me to come to Palo Alto to work in a camp there. And I went there, and 2 kids turned up from Dallas because they heard that I was in the camp. I don't know how they found out because there wasn't that much information them days. Anyway, they turned up and they asked me to come back to Dallas. They said, come back to Dallas and we will find you some work here. So I was still ready to go back to Dubai, but with the war breaking out in Kuwait, I didn't go back. So I come to Dallas, stayed with Michael Ginsberg and Justin Ginsberg, and they said, we want to start a new club called Dallas Inter, which I started, and we built that up. And after about 10 years or so, we finished up going to FC Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
So
you went on to
been a big journey.
Everton and Liverpool, and now you're the Texans. So
yeah.
So that's been quite a journey. So how do you feel? Life's obviously looked after you. You've done really well, and you've made friends everywhere in the world. So did you see your life panning out this way?
Not really. No, I didn't see it fine in America. I mean, America's been good, really. I've helped a lot of people with college and sending to college well over 100 people gone, and I've helped them to get better, make better players. So it's worked out good, and I enjoy the American people, and I think it's what you make of it, you know. As long as they see that you want to work and you want to do the job, they'll accept you, you know, in this country.
Well, hey, Jimmy, we got a question coming in. So a question coming in is, who is the best player that you've played against and played with? So who in your career is the best player you felt you've played against and you've played with?
Well, we didn't get into my army situation. I played for the British Army.
Well, let's get into that situation now, then we'll answer that question. I never knew about this British Army. It's something new for me, so tell me.
Well, the team, we had Alan Hodgkin in goal, Graham Shaw, Sheffield United, England. This would be in 58, 59.
Okay, so I'll get some context on the players' ages. Okay, so who do you have on that?
Yeah. Alan Hodgkinson was the goalkeeper. Graham Shaw was the right fullback. Bill Fox, Manchester United, left back. Then we had Peter Swan, who was Sheffield Wednesday. Then we had Dave Mackay, Bobby Charlton, Cliff Jones.
Bobby Charlton?
Yeah.
Dang.
And a player called Duncan Edwards. I played with him, and he's the best player I've ever played with. And in this game against Crystal Palace, it was the British Army playing Crystal Palace. I was playing, and I remember him saying, "Move out of there, son. Come away. Tell me what to do." He scored this goal. I've never seen anything like it. Terrific player. He's the best player I've played with and played against. Duncan Edwards. Okay. Not to play against.
And played against. So he's the best player you played with and you played against.
To play against, I would say maybe Dave Mackay. It was at Tottenham. He was a terrific player.
Wow, fantastic. So, well, that was the question. So I hope that answers.
And the funny thing is, about 3 or 4 years ago, we went to Manchester. I took a team to England, and we went to Manchester United around the ground, showing all the things at United and everything with the kids and everything else. And the guy that done the report said, Jimmy, he said, you played with Duncan Edwards. He said, could you give a report on him? So that was great, you know.
Well,
It's
fantastic.
sad, like that he died at 21, you know.
Oh, yeah, such a young age. Well, Jimmy,
Yeah.
it's been I absolutely enjoy having our time together, regardless on this webinar. We actually spend some time together and have a chit chat every now and then. So it's always great to listen to your stories and to listen to where you got to. It's very interesting. I think a lot more people would find it interesting if they got down to sit down with you and let's have a decent conversation about your career in football, and just having a smile throughout the webinar. You can tell how much you've enjoyed it. So we've obviously coached against each other as well up in times here when you were at Liverpool and the MPL. I was coaching against you with the O1 boys and stuff. So
And you beat me, I think.
Always, it's okay. So we were in a little club at the time. But again, I'll just remind the viewers there, if you want to send in any questions, if you have anything you want to ask him, just to remind people that are on here listening, we've got 15 days of these webinars. We've already had one yesterday with the Birmingham City, Craig Gill. Today, obviously, Jimmy, tomorrow, Paddy. And then we've got Ian Birchnell from, we got Ostersunds FK. He's the head coach of Ostersunds. I worked with him about 20 years ago. Great guy. Went into Ostersunds or went into professional coaching very young man. Friday, Scotty Allison from Partick Thistle Academy Director, and he's got a whole slideshow going on. So there's some great webinars to end off this week. So we've cut a little bit short here. We've not got so many questions coming in. Jimmy, is there anything else any other funny stories you want to come up with? I had a couple of things down. Your guess. Who's the hardest? I've got one here for you. So who was the hardest manager or coach that you had to go up against when you were a manager? Apart from me in the MPL, of course.
I found that Kevin Keegan was always difficult to play against when he was at Newcastle as a coach. He, very enthusiastic. Alan Mullery was a good coach at Brighton, and Mike Bailey, very dour but very organised, also was at Brighton and Charlton. But Bill Shankly took a lot of beating. Bob Paisley was always good. I mean, Bob, knew the game. Was terrific sitting in the dugout with him and listening to him, organising the game and talking about the game. Knew it,
So let me ask you this then. So who do you feel in your coaching, in your managerial career, who helped shape that for you? Who throughout your, I guess, with the people you played for, even in Alf Ramsey and Bob, but who influenced your style of management and coaching?
I would say Bill Shankly came because he was very successful and very knowledgeable about the game and enthusiastic. But Bob Paisley was always one I started with at Anfield. Bob came. Liverpool had just gone down the year I went on the ground staff at Anfield. They went down and Bob finished playing, and he was probably learning about the game. But in between him learning, he knew the game and understood the game quite a bit. It was always good to listen to him and watch him. We didn't do a lot of coaching as much as play the game in them days and do a lot of running, But looking back, I would say Stan Cullis, was the old type of manager which didn't go out on the field but directed his coaches how to play, what to do, how to do it, It was interesting. Stan Cullis was like that. Ted Bates at Southampton, similar, So, I mean, when you leave Liverpool and you leave Bill Shankly and Bob Paisley, it takes, a lot of beating, because not only did they know the game and understand the game, they also won the game. So that was a big thing.
So if you were to have anything to suggest to budding coaches, budding professional people that want to play in the professional game, people that want to go into a coaching career, what would you say to those people that you could give them some advice for?
I would say, first and foremost, I think you don't have to be a good player to be a good coach. You can be a very ordinary, like this player in England that have not really played the game but come through as good coaches and good managers. It's go on the courses, learn, watch, pick up a little bit. I used to pick up quite a lot from Ron Greenwood, who was at West Ham at the time, because he was right into the game and wasn't a great player but was a great coach, and you could learn a lot. I always found that you could learn by going on courses. I used to go to Lilleshall quite a lot when I first started, just to go around the coaches and learn from the managers, by talking with them, by listening to them, and then you had your little bit that but you can learn a little bit, pick up little ideas from them, had your ideas, and it always work out good, But learning and going, watching, I remember talking to Stan Cullis. He went and watched Leicester playing Notts Forest, and I remember I said to him, "Boss, what was the game like?" He said, "I learned a lot." Oh, I thought, good, I want to listen to what he learned. I said, "What was it, boss?" He said, "How not to play." So you can go to games and learn a lot by, just watching how not to play sometimes,
Yes, that's very true as well. Well, Jimmy, I don't want to take up much of your time. I know you're at home there, so I do appreciate you giving up your time and jumping on one of these webinars so other people can listen and learn from you. I'm hoping that we can do this more regularly and just get a little bit more in depth in what's in your head and certain aspects in coaching maybe and playing aspects as opposed to your journey. And thanks to all your backroom staff there at the house to make sure the technology works correctly. Absolutely, Angie is top drawer. So thank you very much for making sure that's all on. It's been tremendous, and hopefully when this ban gets lifted to seeing each other,
we'll get together shortly. Yeah, well, let's get this out of the way. But thanks for bringing me on, and you have a good day and enjoy your time. Let's get this thing over and done with and get out and about where we should be on the field.
Amen to that. And once again, thank you so much, Jimmy. Good friend.
And thank you for, yeah. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, buddy. Bye.